free. But before she could be taken off the train, she died.
It came up your wing.
This video will help jurors suggest better ways to react to emergencies like this one. Jeannie Lee, CBC News, Toronto.
Still ahead in tonight's news, the story of the special delivery to this 105-year-old man.
And later on our magazine, Turning Back the Clock.
It's a generation that has very high expectations, and they want to keep that youthful image at any cost.
But what can you do?
And I think there are lots of things people can do that aren't extraordinary, that aren't expensive.
How the baby boomers are changing our notion of getting older. The National's Friday Night Survival Guide, How to Fight 50.
Brian Tobin has completed the transformation from federal fisheries minister to provincial premier. He was sworn in today as Newfoundland's 6th premier, taking over from Clyde Wells. More from the CBC's Tonda McCharles.
Any second thoughts, sir?
Bit late for second thoughts.
Clyde Wells, on his way to see the Lieutenant Governor to resign as Premier, said the pace of change has been swifter than even he expected.
I just assumed a month ago that I would be in this office until at least the early part or to the middle of March.
Though this was to be Brian Tobin's day, Wells' departure did not go unnoted.
Mr. Wells, some of the boys and girls from our province would like to say thank you for serving us and thank you for helping our province.
Well,
and they have
you're
to thank
most
you
kind to do that.
He was visibly touched by the gesture of children from a local daycare.
It gives me some reason to believe that perhaps at least some sector of the province is grateful for 8 years of contribution. Thanks very much.
Tobin arrived less than 3 weeks ago to take over the Liberal leadership.
Hi, Brian Tobin.
Unchallenged for that job, Tobin now takes over as Premier, choosing to keep the Wells cabinet for now. But Tobin's made clear this is temporary. An election call next week is almost certain.
My advice to everybody is to go away and have a very restful weekend, but not to plan any holidays.
But I think it would be politically opportunistic of Mr. Tobin to call a snap election without giving the people of the province an opportunity to hear from him his position on the key issues.
For all intents and purposes, in Newfoundland, an election campaign is already well underway. The Liberals have recruited candidates. The Conservatives and New Democrats are tuning up their campaign organizations for what's expected to be a tough fight to beat Tobin. Tonda McCharles, CBC News, St. John's.
A federal cabinet committee has just finished work on a new unity plan. Liberal MPs will be briefed on Monday. But as Paul Adams reports, there are clear signs that the plan is already being put into practice.
It's one thing to shuffle your cabinet, another getting everyone in line behind the new unity strategy.
We will have a meeting next week with the caucus.
At a special meeting next week in Vancouver, Jean Chrétien will tell his caucus about his new, more activist strategy.
Chrétien received a cabinet committee report on unity just this week. But the outlines of his strategy are already apparent. Offer Quebecers incentives to stay inside Confederation, but make the consequences of leaving painfully clear.
No news in town today.
On Monday, the Justice Minister, Alan Rock, hinted Ottawa now plans to tell Quebecers clearly that simply declaring sovereignty wouldn't be legal.
Any overall plan has to take into account as one facet the legality of what's being suggested or proposed when one speaks of separations.
My priority will be to revise that Citizenship Act.
Yesterday, the new Citizenship Minister, Lucienne Robillard, said she may change the law to make it clear that choosing separation means losing Canadian citizenship.
If they do so, they are not part anymore of Canada, so there's no assurance that they will have the Canadian citizenship. This is clear.
Meanwhile, the new Intergovernmental Affairs Minister, Stéphane Dion, is saying if Quebec separates, some parts of the province might choose to stay in Canada. At the same time, he's offered Quebecers a carrot to stay. in an unusual manifesto released at his swearing-in. He wants a strong, distinct society clause entrenched in the Constitution, and he wants decentralization of powers. Both ideas that have divided Liberals in the past, just as they've divided Canadians.
There is a growing consensus in the Liberal caucus that Quebecers should be told more bluntly about the obstacles they face if they choose to go. But there's still sharp disagreement about how much they should be offered to persuade them to stay. Paul Adams, CBC News, Ottawa.
Another Canadian province has dealt itself into the casino business. The Saskatchewan government opened a Las Vegas-style gaming house today, hoping to pump some big profits into the provincial treasury. But as we hear from Eric Sorensen, some people think the gamble isn't worth it.
It's everything you'd expect to see in Las Vegas, except it's the heartland of the prairies. 500 slot machines, blackjack, roulette.
How much does that pay there, guy?
25.35 yellow. It's a new experience for many people here.
There you go, sir. It paid $70.
And it's only the first and biggest of 5 new casinos that will open in Saskatchewan this year.
Beautiful. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous establishment.
The mayor says it will answer the critics who call Regina a backwater.
Well, surprise, surprise. I think you'll be very surprised that there will be many people coming to Regina.
But not everyone wants a casino. Today, a church group marched outside saying it will attract people who can least afford to gamble. And down the street, one agency that helps gambling addicts is getting ready to open a bigger office.
Anytime you increase gambling, you increase the number of gamblers with problems. There's no question about that. I mean, common sense tells you that.
But the deputy premier says Saskatchewan spends more than other provinces on treatment of problems that stem from gambling. And he says profits will benefit the public.
The monies that flow from gaming are all going back into social programming.
Social programming that will mainly target Saskatchewan's Aboriginal people. They're getting half the 500 jobs being created and a quarter of the casino's profits. Their Grand Chief says the economic good far outweighs the social ills.
People are going to gamble anyways. We believe gaming is here to stay. It's entered this jurisdiction. It's not going to go away, I believe. And as long as it's here, we feel that we should be a partner in it.
Some gambling analysts doubt that a relatively isolated province like Saskatchewan can support what will eventually be 7 casinos. The provincial government already says it won't make the profits at first thought. It now expects to make $8 to $10 million a year, down more than half from its original projections. Eric Sorensen, CBC News, Regina.
Canada's banks had some good news today for borrowers. They're dropping their prime lending rates by 1/4 percentage point starting Monday. And the Bank of Montreal announced it is lowering some of its mortgage rates. Canada Post made a special delivery today in Windsor, Ontario, but you wouldn't call it a speedy delivery. When the package was mailed, the man it was addressed to was 43. He got it today, now at the age of 105 years old. Blake Roberts reports.
Letter carrier Beth Bailey knew something wasn't right when she pulled the ratty old manila envelope from her bag on Monday. Upon closer inspection, her intuition proved correct. This package had a booklet inside on how to be a better door-to-door salesman. It left Chicago September 25th, 1934. 1.5 cents postage paid, but it didn't make it to its destination in Windsor until today.
Call it good detective work. All the numbers had been changed on the street where the letter was supposed to go, but Bailey held on to it, and she hit pay dirt one day when she was talking to an older resident who said, yes, there was a man with the same name as the one on the letter who lived in an old house where this new one now stands.
And I said, do you know anything about the man? Like, I'd like to get this letter to his family. And she said, no, he's still alive.
The recipient, named, believe it or not, Jim Post, is now 105 years old and just about deaf.
It's from the NSTA lecture series, National Salesmen's Training Association.
They want to know what you were doing in 1934.
1934?
Yeah.
I guess I was taking a bath, I guess.
Post does recall being a door-to-door salesman once, though he isn't sure if that was in the 30s. Canada Post says it doesn't know where the letter has been all this time, nor how it ended up back in the system. They say it probably got lost, then found when Windsor's federal building was renovated recently. By the way, one of the tips for salesmen in the booklet Jim Post waited 62 years to get is how to better manage time. Blake Roberts, CBC News, Windsor.
And that's the news for now. Later, our Canadian Newsmaker of the Week, a person in a new arena in the middle of the action. Now, here's Hannah Gardner with our magazine.
The National's Friday Survival Guide, How to Fight 50. Hello. It has been compared to a whale in a swimming pool, the generational bulge that has made such a splash in society.
Like oil of Olay, for example, are going to do extremely well because everybody, including men, are going to be looking at these products as a way of looking younger as they move into the sunset of their life.
They're going to build on that. So I'm very positive and optimistic about my next 50 years.
That is our survival guide for this Friday. If you'd like to comment about the program or if you'd like to purchase a transcript, here's how you can do it. Here's what some of you had to say about last week's survival guide on how to protect your pension.
What would I give up in order to put money into a retirement savings plan?
Look in the mirror if you want to find out who's the one you're going to depend on for your financial resources.
The best single investment a Canadian can make for their future is an investment in an RSP.
Part of what is driving stock market prices up is the consumer demand for mutual funds. So what happens when all the big pension funds have to start paying out pensions as well as boomers start selling their mutual funds? As someone who's been on the back end of the boomers all my life, what do I do? Just when my mutual fund should start turning into a nice retirement income, am I going to be watching the biggest stock market crash since the Depression?
Nobody's ever pointed out that the government and a lot of these economists are really pushing these RRSPs to the limit. What's going to happen when the government turns around and looks at all these untold billions of untaxed dollars sitting in the bank? How long is it going to be before the government decides they want their share?
The easiest way for all of us to invest is through our payroll deductions at work. Money going into the RSP account gives us our tax refund immediately. $100 per pay going in costs us $60. $40 comes back from our savings.
People think a house is a very good investment, and as long as you're going to live in it and it's going to bring you comfort, it's a very good investment. In terms of retirement planning, it's not a good investment.
I agree with your financial advisor who advocated renting over house ownership for retirement planning. If you consider $60,000 mortgaged over 25 years at 10%, the interest you're paying to the bank is about $100,000. Far better that you should take this money, put it into RRSPs, investments, and education and skills upgrading to keep yourself competitive for the job market.
I think a house is a very good retirement investment. In 1985, I bought a home. The ground floor is a two-room apartment which I rent out. The extra income has doubled my old age security and CPP. If I had been paying rent at $600 per month for 20 years, I would have spent $144,000, still be paying rent, and have nothing to bequeath. For me, the house has been an absolute anchor.
Next Friday on the National Survival Guide, how to care for your aging parents, the responsibility and the choices. And we'll also have this documentary next week.
I'm Eve Savory in Toronto with the inside story of a hospital trying to survive.
What happened? Don't know yet.
As healthcare budgets are slashed, we watched management cut 250 jobs.
Politically, it would be better to do the management layoffs or announce them or do whatever sort of prior to the union layoffs.
Once healthcare meant a job for life, now managers role play how to do a layoff.
What about her? She doesn't do as much work as I do.
It's not a question of work. Why don't you just go home and collect your thoughts, and why don't you come back next week and then we can sit down and discuss it further if you need to.
And staff wait.
It's every day of not knowing. Next month, are you going to be gone? I'm tired of it. I'm
Tomorrow is Pink Slip Day, and everybody's feeling just a little tense right at the moment.
In this environment and in this economy, losing a job amounts to capital punishment.
I can tell you devastated. The Managers, Monday on The National.
I will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. But please stay with us now for Wendy Mesley and the National Almanac.
Live from Orlando, it's SeaWorld! Hey, let's go see the Cubs first.
Ooh, you almost got one.
Look, it's easy.
Mr. Olympic.
Simulator ride. Meanwhile, just pick one.
Whoa, ooh, nice lunch.
Prepare yourself for a bad hair day.
I'm soaked. Yikes! Look, she's eating shamu.
Oh, great day, huh?
SeaWorld of Florida. Let the adventure begin.
If I did serve for jury duty, would I be safe?
Penny, listen to me now. You're in danger, and your son is in danger. All you have to do is say 2 words. Not guilty. You're gonna be okay. Just do what he says. You're never out of my thoughts.
You said he could be reasoned with.
Who will protect you?
He can't.
Demi Moore, Alec Baldwin, from the chilling bestseller, The Juror. At theaters February 2nd.
Our Canadian newsmaker of the week is someone you might not have heard much about before, but you will certainly be hearing from him in the future. Yesterday, he went from being an observer of the political scene to a key player. 40-year-old Stéphane Dion is now the Prime Minister's right-hand man in the fight to keep Quebec in Canada. He's been handed the job of Intergovernmental Affairs Minister. It's a subject he's developed strong opinions about in his career as an influential political scientist.
I think the Prime Minister realized that if I come in Ottawa, it's not to always say what he wants to hear.
Dion has never run for elected office, but his family is hardly new to politics. His father, Léon Dion, was a long-time constitutional advisor to the Quebec government. He backed pushing the rest of Canada to the brink to meet Quebec's demands.
I have the impression that nobody here is aware of what we have asked.
Predictably, a mixed response to Stéphane Dion's appointment in Quebec today, with the Francophone press calling him everything from a reasonable gamble to a star by default.
It would be useful for the unity of the country to recognize that all provinces are different, but one of them has a specific difference as a Francophone community.
By taking on issues like distinct society status for Quebec, the political rookie is now at the center of one of the hottest debates in this country's history. Stéphane Dion, this week's Canadian newsmaker. And that's The National for this Friday night. Local news is next on most of these stations. On Sunday, I'll be here with Sunday Report. Have a nice weekend.